Good morning to everyone on board. Good morning, Success Agbons. Good to see you here this morning. So as usual, we'll quickly run through the fundamentals, then we'll go on the charts to see the technicals. Earlier on in the night, there was a news from Australia that the GDP quarterly data was released from Australia. It came out bad for the Australian dollar. We'll check a couple of the Australian dollar pairs to see how they reacted to this news. Actual came out less than forecast, so that will have led to some bearish movement. We can still look and see if there is any potential opportunities on this instrument. Good morning, Edifang. Then also today by 9:30 a.m., Bank of Japan Governor Ueda is going to give a speech. So please be careful with Japanese yen pairs this morning. Peradventure, you have a running Japanese yen trade. Please just make sure you put the right stop loss in place, just in case, so that I can protect your account. Good morning, Dr. Babatunde Emmanuel. And 1:15 p.m. today, there'll be ADP non-farm employment change, and 3 p.m. ISM services PMI, and same 3 p.m. Treasury Secretary Best Sent will give a speech. But then I want us to quickly look at this ADP non-farm employment change. Now, ADP non-farm employment change is the estimated change in the number of employed people during the previous month, excluding the farming industry and government. Normally NFPs, change in the number of employed people for the previous month, excluding the farming industry. But this ADP is saying excluding farming industry and government, probably government officials. So I believe it's closely related to the NFP and could give some volatility. So we're going to watch out for this particular ADP non-farm employment change later today by 1:15 p.m. All right, so let's go straight to the chart. Let's check out the dollar index and check out any expectation for the ADP non-farm employment change. Now, on the dollar index side, to be honest, dollar index is just a whole mess these days. No clarity, just zigzag up and down movements. Nothing really clear to read. But notwithstanding, I would look at the USD because there's still some measure of clear movement, on the USD So this is the USD on the 4-hour time frame. Now, with the look of things, dollar index, we don't know whether it's bullish or bearish. It's just clearly in a range. Just in a kind of a range. You can see it all through here. The candles are not easy to interpret what's going on. All right, so this is the USD currently, we can see the USD looks a lot like price is in a downtrend. Can see price making a series of lower high, lower high, lower high, a lower high here, and price is currently touching the trend line. Now, since the dollar index is not clear, well, we just have to look at possibilities. Now, if price for any reason breaks out above this trend line, well, that will mean we have an uptrend movement on the USD and that could impact upon the news, the ADP non-farm employment change in the afternoon. Otherwise, if this trend line holds, we're expected to see a reversal. So for now, let's just hold on to the reversal technically, because that's what should happen if price hits here, except there's a breakout. So let's hold on more to the bearish for now. Let's go down to 1 hour time frame. All right, so on the 1 hour, we can clearly see price is still touching that trend line, but I'm not seeing. Let's go down to 15 minutes. Yeah, 15 minutes looks a lot clearer. On the 15 minutes, we can have a rising wedge pattern here, and we may be looking out for a breakout. If this area, this region holds, price may reverse back and break out downwards. So let's watch out for a bearish movement on the USDCHF today, all things being equal. But like I said, if price breaks that trend line, it will be an upward one. This is largely because we don't have real clarity on the dollar index. So we just have to trade it as it comes. It could either be a buy or a sell. Just watch out closely. But the thing is that if it's going to be a buy, because I can see that price looks to be shooting out above the trend line already. If it's going to be a buy, uh, we may need to also carefully look at maybe a breakout, a retest, then possibly a continuation. Now, price is testing that trend line. It's clearly testing it, but then this is just 7 a.m. until this candle closes. So if this current candle closes above the trend line, then we may look at a little bit push upwards, a retest, then a breakout. So that is looking like it's breaking out above it now does not mean let me quickly enter a buy. No, just be calm. See, never rush into a trade. Understand what's going on first. Understand the pattern, understand the market structure before you take a decision. It's just 12 minutes past 7. Price can still return back and still fall. Or if it clearly breaks out above and retest, we can look at a trade. So just watch out and see what happens on the USD CHF as the day progresses. All right, but the key instruments I want to show us today is actually the card related pairs. A lot of the card related pairs are actually looking very, very bearish. I don't use the word strongly bearish. They are really looking very bearish. But then out of about 5 of them, I will just look at 2, and that will be the GBP card and the USD card. Those are the 2 I will look at this morning. Okay, I think I should start with the GBP card. All right, now I've been watching the GBP cards since yesterday. I even posted my analysis on it in the groups, because I was supposed to be a speech yesterday from the United Kingdom, which was expected to impact, but then that news didn't have much impact on it. But on the technicals, you can see there's an overall bearish trend, an overall downtrend on this instrument on the daily time frame, and there's a corresponding resistance, and the candlestick that closed yesterday closed as a rejection candle, on the daily time frame. Good morning, Madam Onaji. These are clear indication of a possible bearish movement on this instrument. I can see today's candle is already looking reddish, so we're looking at a possible bearish movement on this instrument today. Flip straight to 1 hour time frame. This is 1 hour. As of yesterday, we drew our trend line this way, and we got a channel. So price is breaking out downwards, and we have a minor support zone here. So we want price to clearly break below that minor support, and from there we can see there will be a massive bullish breakout on the GBP card. So anywhere below price 186, 1.86151, we may be looking at the opportunity to sell the GBP card. I've been bearish on it since yesterday, and it looks like it's gradually working out just as planned. You see, that's one thing with trading. Patience is a virtue. There are times things may not look like, the way you think it's going to go initially, but with patience, eventually you see it work out. So if you're there, you always feel like things must work as I want it now. No, sometimes it doesn't. Don't forget, it's a $7 trillion market that is largely moved by the forces of demand and supply. So if price makes a clean break below this 1.86151, we may be looking at a bearish breakout on the GBP card. And if that happens, what will be our projected profit taking level? Let's look at that quickly. Fibonacci 38.2 can give as much as 10 pips. That's just like a scalping trade, while Fibonacci 50 can give as much as 28 pips. That's more appreciable, and Fibonacci 7.8 can give as much as 45 pips. These are levels price will likely target in the course of the day. If the volatility is really strong, price might decline to Fibonacci 78.6 at about 70 pips. So let's watch out. Between 10 pips to 70 pips movement is possible in the course of today. This is a day trade, it's 1 hour. So let's watch out very closely for this move on this instrument, all things being equal today. The USD card, said I'm going to touch on that. I've been watching this one since last week. It broke out slightly bearish before the end of last week. Then I saw some retracement again. But then I'm still watching it closely, and I'll still give you my outlook on this one. Now, this is the USD CHF on the daily time frame. Again, also we have a massive, bearish outlook on this instrument. The overall trend is bearish. Price making a series of lower high, lower high, and price returned, towards the end of last week on the trend line again. So, technically here, price went bearish, so we're expecting it to go bearish again on touching that trend line. And besides, if you look at it critically, price also is making a series of lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. The next wave of movement should be a lower low. That's the market structure. So we are very much in tune if you say we're looking for a bearish trade. Now, if we look closer, as of yesterday, I was seeing what is looking like a double top pattern forming. Uh, if it's not too clear, there's always a way around it. I like to go to the line chart. You can see the line chart. It's making it a little clearer. I'm expecting a decline, a breakout. Don't forget this region will be the neckline. I didn't draw that to, yeah. So if this eventually forms a double top pattern, we're going to see a breakout downwards from that region. So with that, we can flip down to the 4-hour time frame. We're doing top-down analysis. Now, at the moment, just like what we saw on the USD CHF, price is testing the trend line again. So on the big picture, on the 4-hour time frame, we still have our uh, outlook of a double top and a breakout, possibly. But then I think we can still go down to 1 hour for those who are day traders. Even on 1 hour also, we're still seeing like a double top, which is expected to still lead to a breakout. So either ways, from every time frame, we're still seeing that possibility of a bearish breakout. So I've also drawn my trend lines to form a rising wedge pattern. So if price breaks out below this lower trend line, I'm expecting to see a breakout to the downside on 1 hour, though this can still work on 4 hour, but we're starting with the 1 hour version. That's the intraday version, of this setup. So let's use our Fibonacci to look at projected entry points and profit taking levels. All right, so price, we may look at entry somewhere maybe around this Fibonacci 23.6, and that's around price 1.38333, and when we look at profit taking on Fibonacci 38.2, Fibonacci 50, and possibly Fibonacci 61.8. These are key levels price may get to. And from the first entry point, Fibonacci 23.6 to 38.2 can give as much as 12 pips. Fibonacci 50 can give as much as 21 pips, and Fibonacci 61.8 can give as much as 31 pips. All right, so that's from the swing. Sorry, that's from the intraday. That's from the intraday version of this setup. Between 10 to about 30 pips movement is possible, and the intraday version of this setup, all things being equal. And I want to show us now the swing side of it. If that also comes up for the swing, don't forget on the daily time frame, we are looking at a big double top. So the swing is expected to last way longer. So we can flip down to 4 hour for the swing. Don't forget, this is still the double top. So for the swing, there's a neckline region that price needs to clearly break out below for us to consider taking a swing trade. And that's this neckline. So price is expected to break out down and break that level, then we see a very big decline in price. Now, so if you're a day trader, you can just trade the initial breakout downwards to this neckline region. That's a very possible trade. But for those who are swing traders, your entry is actually below the neckline. Except you want to do intraday to the neckline, then you now look out for a breakout below the neckline again for the swing. That could also work. And if you're taking the swing setup, if it eventually forms like I'm showing you now, your entry will be below the neckline region at around 1.37665, and you may start looking at profit taking on Fibonacci 50, Fibonacci 61.8, and possibly Fibonacci 78.6, and that can move you to from the proposed entry to Fibonacci 50 can give as much as, let's say, roughly 50 pips to Fibonacci 61.8 can give as much as 85 pips, and Fibonacci 70.6 can give as much as about 137 pips. So that's it for the swing setup. So either intraday or swing, we are bearish on the USD card. We are equally bearish on the GBP card. Now, next I'll look at is the BTC USD. Now, we've not looked at this instrument for some time. We look at what the market is. Like I said, virtually all the cards are bearish. AED card, NZD card, uh, all of them are bearish, but I can only give a few. So if you want to check others by yourself, you're free to. But as much as possible, avoid over trading. Avoid over trading. Don't lump too many pairs, into your trade. All right, I said I was going to check BTC USD. Good. So this is BTC USD. On the daily time frame, we can clearly see a rejection candle forming. Yeah, the day is still young, but that doesn't change the fact that we can clearly see a rejection candle right there on the daily time frame. Now, it's forming around the support zone, still on the daily time frame. So technically, we're going to be looking for a reversal to the upside. So let's go down to 4 hour. Still have that rejection candle on the 4 hour. Let's go to 1 hour. I didn't say any other thing aside that rejection candle, so nothing much. So we still go down to 1 hour time frame. Okay, let's take it down to 30 minutes. So on the 30 minutes time frame, I can clearly see a falling wedge. Now, price has actually broken out above the trend line, so it's having a bullish sentiment. However, I will advise not entering now because my MACD is still showing me very strong bearish sentiment, both on the 30 minutes time frame and even the 1 hour time frame. It's still within a strong bearish zone. So price could still fall before going up. So be cautious. Don't say, oh, it has broken up above, so I should just enter a buy. Yes, the the RSI is at 52. 52 is still not a strong bullish, break like that. Assuming it's like around 55 now, as an RSI around 55, well, we may just take it. But as it is now, the RSI and the MACD, they are still within regions where the strength of the bull may not be sustained. So I'm feeling price may do some retracement before making a break upwards. And if that happens, that will even help our analysis because it may end up forming, an inverse head and shoulder pattern. So in other words, for now, we'll still watch this closely. Let our RSI break out more than the current 52 level, or better still, let's take this place as a minor resistance region that price should break out before we make an entry. Yeah, price might come here and test before breakout. What is most important is that we need price to clearly break above this level for us to trigger a buy on the BTC USD. And there's a lot to catch on this BTC if this setup really works as I'm seeing it. Because if we come to the recent high here to look at the profit taking level, we need a clear break above all this to trigger a buy. So let's look at our proposed entry point around just above that box, some pips above that box, randomly around 68233.11. Then we may look at targeting the Fibonacci levels, for profit taking, depending on our trading style. At least Fibonacci 50 and 61.8 are areas you cannot ignore. Let me use that word. So to Fibonacci 38.2 can give as much as 60 pips. Fibonacci 50 can give as much as 157 pips, and Fibonacci 61.8 can give as much as 259 pips. So we're bullish on the BTC USD. All right, that'll be all from my analysis this morning. A little recap. I've analyzed the USD card on which I'm bearish on both 1 hour and 4 hour. I've analyzed the GBP card on which I'm bearish on 1 hour, BTC USD I'm bullish on 30 minutes. I've analyzed the dollar index also, but like I said, there's no clarity around it, but we're hoping for a bearish movement on the USD CHF because we can see a bearish set. Although, like I said, it's not looking stable also. Price could break out even on the upside. If it breaks out on the upside, then you have to use your technical skill to manage the outcome of that. Most importantly is we're expecting the news from United States by 1:30 p.m. That's the ADP non-farm employment change, and that actually will decide the next major move of the dollar. Okay, so I'm seeing people post here. Darlington Wise is asking me to check gold, gold cash, gold, uh, Teresa gold. Okay, we have quite a number of gold traders on the platform this morning. So let's check out what could happen to gold today. All right, so this is gold on the 4 hour. Let's go to daily time frame. All right, so earlier on the daily time frame, price actually hit a support zone with a rejection candle that led to a slightly bullish break or movement. Let me not use the word break. Movement on gold some days back. Then another rejection candle there was formed, which led to the decline in the last couple of days. So we can see the movement downwards. Presently, price is coming back to the body of this rejection candle. So let's trace it down to 4 hour. Yeah, and that's this support reflected both on daily and 4 hour. So we look at that region now as an area of interest. Then we take it down to 1 hour, possibly 15 minutes. All right. So we have a valid support on the 15 minutes time frame. It's actually from the daily. That support is actually from the daily. So it's a strong support zone. So we need price to drop to this support zone, then we'll get a breakout to the upside. So what I'll be looking out for, I also can draw a trend line right here and another one to form a falling wedge. So I just look at price dropping into this zone and breaking out above the trend line. Now at my entry, I'll be looking at RSI clearly above 50 and possibly MACD above 0. And that could give us a clear entry into a bullish trade on gold. Please watch out for this setup, as I've said. It's very important. All right, so profit taking level, if everything works out as planned, is still a forecast, but we can watch it closely as the day progresses. We may be looking at entry above Fibonacci 23.6 if a new candle opens above that level, because that's a recent Fibonacci level, which will also act as a resistance. So that'll be above 4466, sorry, 4469.65, and price may target the following Fibonacci levels: Fibonacci 38.2, Fibonacci 50, Fibonacci 61.8. These are strong levels price may target, and that can give as much as about 132 pips to Fibonacci 38.2, about 245 pips to Fibonacci 50, and as much as about 359 pips to Fibonacci 61.8. So we're bullish on gold on the 15 minutes, but don't forget, like I said, we expect price to test the support zone first. So wait for price to clearly drop into that support zone and break out above the upper trend line before you look at taking a trade. Now, doesn't mean if it drops to the support zone, you can't just enter a buy trade. You can on just one condition. I'll draw the support zone again so that we don't box you too much into a corner. If price drops to the support zone and clearly you can see a rejection candle, or an inverse head and shoulder, or a double bottom pattern, any reversal pattern. If you can see any reversal pattern, fine, you can pick your buy straight from here upwards. But if that does not happen, then we need to rely on price breaking out above the trend line. So it's either ways, depends on how the market wants to do its thing. But either ways, we still remain bullish on gold. Okay, so I'll take about two other questions as we begin to round up. Don't forget Friday, we're having our NFP live trading session. We've been posting, the reminder to that. We'll post it again today. NFP is non-farm payroll, is the biggest news event in the forex market globally. And it comes up the first Friday of every month. CPI is the second one, Consumer Price Index, which measures inflation. NFP talks about employment, change in employment, employment rate, unemployment, employment change, unemployment rate, and average hourly earnings. And CPI, like I said, is a measure of inflation. Both of them are big news events. So NFP is coming up this Friday by 1 p.m. CPI is coming up next week, Wednesday, also by 1 p.m. We trade these two sessions live at PU Prime, and I tell you, you can't afford to miss it. It's always explosive. Within a few seconds, all things being equal, you see price go your way and you make good money. So don't miss NFP this Friday and CPI next week, Wednesday. All right, so I'm waiting. Question as we begin to round up. Also, don't forget we have physical training session at our Abuja and Lagos office on Tuesdays and Thursdays by 11 a.m. And on Mondays and Wednesdays, we have online training class. So today, there's going to be an online session. Once we drop the link, just make sure you join us. All right. So in the absence of any question, we're ending the analysis here. The link will be dropped so that I can watch it over again. Do take care and have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.